Hi, I'm Emily Herbert with Counterpoint Research. I am a senior analyst for the North America team, and we're here at Mobile Disrupt with...
I'm Sean in Cleland, yeah.
Yeah. You want to give us a little brief on B-Stock, about yourself, your role?
Yeah, so B-Stock's pretty unique. We are a platform that retailers, carriers, OEMs utilize to resell any type of product into the secondary market. So business-to-business platform that deals in everything from clothing to high-end electronics, but we just happen to have a real expertise in mobility. We support carriers and sellers in both U.S. and Canadian markets, and whether the inventory is coming back from trade-in, returns, insurance, you name it, it needs to be reused and resold. So we help enable those transactions and programs for big companies that have a lot of phones to move.
Yeah, and it's just such a growing market, the secondary space, right? Like we've been seeing, it's been outpacing even the new devices. So yeah, it's great work. Great to see that, so much is still happening in the market years later as well. So I just want to kind of get started on that note. So basically, it's been growing. How did we get here, essentially? So how did it outpace the new? So in your experience, what has helped foster this growth in the secondary space for mobility?
I think, call it 10 years ago, people really started recognizing, man, I probably shouldn't put this phone in a drawer when I'm done with it. I could probably sell it. There's some value left here. And really the iPhone brought about the behavior en masse. I used to run the buy-sell trade program at GameStop back in the day. And in the early days of the iPhone, a couple years in, kids were coming into GameStops with mom's old iPhone wanting to trade it for an Xbox. And we were like, okay, people are starting to figure out that these are worth a good amount of money. So we turned that on. And the market really blew up with the iPhone. It was very desirable, high dollar, and there was an appetite for those devices all over the world. So it really started with international demand for a high-end phone that was only in the US market. Mm-hmm. So it spurred on this whole export and reuse model in other geographies, and it's just evolved rapidly ever since then. So now there's an entire industry built around getting phones back from consumers, data cleared, nice, clean, good, pre-owned experience, and to a second consumer or an insurance claim or a replacement for a customer. So it's just rapidly evolved in the span of really only like 15 years. It's pretty wild. Yeah,
and kind of reaching more on where those avenues are, in the US especially, we're seeing carriers just growing exponentially with this refurbs. They figured it out.
They figured it out. Yep.
Especially with these trade-in programs, it creates this great sustainable circular economy. But we're also seeing these national retailers as well. We were talking before this. Walmart, I was here at Mobile Disrupt 2 years ago. Walmart was listed, but again, they had a small table. But now you walk on the exhibit floor, it's this big, grand, first thing you see, Walmart Marketplace right beside eBay, and then there's Back Market, Swappa. So how are these retail channels kind of reacting to this growth, and how are they able to kind of maintain that share when the carriers are still very dominant?
I think that these retail channels, they still get great foot traffic. So having pre-owned devices available in store, they're trying to grow revenue any way they can. And if there's if a consumer is demanding, hey, I still want a high-end phone, but I'm okay if it's a couple years old, they're just going to meet that demand. But the marketplaces have also kind of diversified to get more inventory, like the Walmart example. They're here as Walmart Marketplace because they want these companies that are all over the show, that are wholesalers and exporters and things like that. They're going, hey, sell on our platform too. We want to see more pre-owned come through. What's been nice is that they've all embraced it. It's not a taboo like it used to be. It was like, oh, the mentality used to be pre-owned is going to cannibalize my new sales. Where now it's, hey, we're reaching out to a new different type of consumer, or we're meeting a different consumer need, so we should offer this. So it's been an absolute paradigm shift in mentality by retailers.
And so because there's been this shift of, okay, not new, news isn't the only way. There's a secondary space, but there's also not so much now, probably still in certain areas, this conception from the consumer that they can't trust secondary. Mm-hmm. Do you think these big names attaching themselves to the secondary has kind of helped foster those sales as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm going back a little bit now, which is, I'm glad that we're far away from it, but COVID really kind of flipped that a little bit, because everybody needed laptops and different tech to work at home, to do school at home, all that stuff. So you had this necessity for inventory, and people were like, well, okay, I'll try pre-owned, I'll try something refurbished. And I think that really helped the adoption and reduced those concerns. But you're right, the retailers bringing that in, those are brands we trust. Mm-hmm. They're brands we know, if something goes wrong, they're gonna take care of us. So having that available, but having that trust and then the protection along with it is awesome. And I think what they've also done very well is a lot of the devices come with a warranty. So they're putting their money where their mouth is, which drives the consumer trust even more.
Yeah, for sure. Speaking of consumer trust or people trust, a big buzzword, kind of hard to avoid these days. Tariffs impacting the secondary market.
Yeah, fun stuff.
How have they impacted the refurbished market? I'm more also from the wholesaler refurbisher side, as well as consumer sentiment. Sure. People are uncertain what's going to happen from both ends. So kind of on both sides of the coin, where are we?
Man, so we're fortunate that we get kind of a unique perspective, because we see the retail impact or the carrier impact. It's kind of, we see it as the volume coming back via trade-in and other programs, but then also the downstream. So on the wholesaler exporter downstream, it's kind of been an exercise in change and speculation. So the news cycle on this changes frequently. But did we see tariffs impact transactions, especially from Canada coming to the U.S.? Yes. Ultimately, were they paying anything? No. But there was didn't even know how to calculate at the border type scenarios. Mm-hmm. So what has happened is the secondary market is incredibly dynamic. So they're working ahead of it. So what we saw was, okay, maybe I don't bring this into the United States. Maybe I push it from Canada to Dubai or to Hong Kong. So we definitely saw a shift in, okay, where's the inventory going to go to be resold or reworked? We have yet to see a true domestic impact on the resale side. Our hypothesis is that if tariffs do come in an impactful percentage level, that's going to drive the price of new devices upward. It's also going to drive the cost of parts and repair upward, because much of that is done out of the country and brought that back. But it will force the labor and the processes to be done domestically. And thankfully, you saw how crowded the exhibit floor is here. Yeah. There's a lot of warehouse space and a lot of people that are ready to do that work, but the economics have to make sense. We've seen just everybody kind of cautiously prepare. And again, the secondary market is dynamic. So what that means is either the acquisition cost may come down. If the MSRP goes up, now we've got a new buffer. So it will all work itself out, because it's more of a commoditized type market. On the consumer side, I think what we've seen is a little bit of a wait and see. I would say that, unit sales are tight. People are kind of not sure, like, should I buy a phone? Should I panic buy now? Yeah. I'm not unlike cars, where we're like, oh, I better buy a car now because they're going to get astronomical. So we saw some immediate purchasing, just like, okay, it's time for me to get a new phone. I'll go take advantage of a trade-in deal and all this stuff, get into it, and then I don't have to worry about it if it happens. But those that wait for the iPhone cycle, if they're on a lease program that's on a cycle, if they're on, if they're ready for an upgrade, there's a lot of, ooh, am I even going to do that this time if the MSRP goes up? So I've seen just that more of consumer uneasiness of like what is going to happen, what will it do. But I don't think it's going to be material until we see what an MSRP is for the next iPhone. That's my tell point.
Yeah, and with like carrier dominance, you'll see that some subsidies probably occurring
For
with the
sure.
trade-ins and things like that. But realistically, how much cost can you eat at the end of the day?
That's right.
So
that's right.
Again, no definitive answer. I don't know if we'll get any anytime soon, but we'll see.
To that point, though,
Yeah.
even if the MSRP goes up and the carriers need to do more promotions, they will presumably have the ability to go upward because most likely trade values will go up.
Yeah.
They'll use the trade-in market because if the MSRP is very high, there will be more demand for pre-owned. So naturally, pricing in the secondary market will go up on an individual phone level, which means they can offer more for trade-in.
Right.
So there should be that dynamic nature again, helping carriers to be promotion friendly by utilizing the secondary market on the back end.
So with carriers having that ability, what does that say for those retail spaces? Is it going to be like less as is, more focused on actual refurbished devices?
I think you're right in that there will be more refurbished devices because we will have the speculation is that we will need to have more pre-owned in the domestic market for consumers. And American consumer is typically looking for it might be pre-owned, but I still want it to be pretty darn flawless. So I anticipate that refurb will go up, and there will be more higher end pre-owned products, more certified, like the OEM certified devices, like Samsung's doing right now. The certified renewed product, they know what's coming and they're getting ahead of it. I would anticipate Apple to do something similar. Their certification's distributed right now, but I would completely expect there to be more refurb, OEM-controlled, certified, pre-owned, renewed product, and then kind of distributed refurbishment to get good pre-owned in the secondary retail channels too.
Makes sense. So you did mention some of like those export paths, maybe kind of doing a loop outside of to avoid importing into the U.S. to others. What are some of the other emerging markets in this space outside of the U.S.? As we mentioned, carriers dominate, very mature market, can't go much outside of that premium space, right? So what are some other areas where we're going to probably see growth in the next, whether it's the rest of this year or the next couple of years?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about it yesterday. We have talked about it at the show, but India is kind of the one we're watching closely. Very rapid growing middle class, large population, largest, and the device market there is maturing very quick. So we watch that as both economically, it's becoming more and more viable for high-end products, and then structurally as well. So by having new manufacturing of phones moving into that market, that really does set up the infrastructure for pre-owned processing as well. Because now you have parts there, you have talent there, you have labor that can do the work. So we anticipate that will be kind of the next market that starts to eat up a lot of the pre-owned supply. It has not traditionally. It's gone elsewhere. We're not only watching, we're seeing it in the data. It's starting to get attention. So it still has to build the infrastructure, but I think that's going to happen pretty darn quick.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then we're touching on every buzzword. We got COVID in there, we got tariffs. I'm getting all in. Can't talk about tech without AI, obviously. Oh, yeah. So how has AI changed? And again, it's similar to that, the consumer versus the back end tariff question. How has AI kind of changed the processing of these devices? Because we're getting a lot of on-device AI with a lot of data, especially a lot of, it's basically hoarding a lot of personal data. So it could pose that security kind of conception in the secondary space. So how are refurbishers getting behind that, as well as on the consumer side? Has it changed upgrade rates? Are people like, okay, let's get rid of this device, I want an AI device right now? Kind of where's the dynamic with AI going?
I wish it was driving consumer behavior. because that would mean a lot more trade-ins were coming in. But no, I don't. On the consumer side, I don't know that it's quite hit the masses yet. I think, my mom still thinks AI is evil. So I don't know that we have the sentiment all the way through everything yet. So we have not seen it drive upgrade cycle, not creating a super cycle, not driving consumer behavior too crazy. I think just from a customer experience, it's still a bit difficult. The AI assistants, it's not quite native language yet. Your phone is not always listening. It's better if you have earbuds in or something like that. So it's not quite there where it's taking over and becoming that forecasted AI tool that's going to change the future. So good long-winded way of saying it's not driving consumer change yet. However, the flip side of our process, like the industry side of it, AI is all over the place now. So where we see AI the most is in device processing. When fortunately, we've got a customer base that's awesome, and they all have processing companies that they use. So we get to see kind of a view of what everyone's doing in the market. And I walk a lot of warehouses, and I'm starting to see more robotics. That was kind of the first step, but AI is driving the robotics as well. So we're getting better cosmetic assessment of a phone, where we're not depending on humans to look at it. We're having a robot take images and scans and do things, but also AI is kind of learning where the things that matter. Are there common scratches to something? It's starting to understand what to look for. What do the consumers care about? Tying it to returns. All these things are together, making them much smarter. So AI is in processing. It's also in, I call it disposition, but like the channeling of inventory. Where should this phone go? So AI tools are being used with resale data, and, internal need data, part costs, supply costs. It's all being pushed in to determine what do I do with all this stuff that we have. And then kind of the other big way that AI is helping is on the predictive side. What is something going to be worth? That's something that we've worked on at eStock for, a long time now. And we have a tool that our customers are using that utilizes multiple machine learning models to predict what is the secondary market value. An iPhone 14 Pro, 128 gigabyte in a B+ condition. What's that going to be worth in 16 weeks? And customers are now using that to help drive trade price value and help drive the cost of insurance programs and predict, okay, if we're running a 24-month lease, at the end of 24 months, we expect the value to be here based on these AI models. So everybody's getting smarter to eke out those basis points of margin.
Yeah, I think in the same conversation with automation as well, we touched on like that trust factor with consumers. And if AI is able to track the grades of devices, because the standardization has been a pretty big issue in the secondary space, right? The standardization of those grading processes. So when there's one thing kind of delegating a grade, it makes it a lot easier for
100%.
the bigger conglomerates right down to the mom and pop shops too, right? So
absolutely right.
Yeah.
And the industry is, we just published, we're members of the CTIA, and there is a grading scales working group that it's focused more on the business side, the business to business operations, and how do we grade as inventory moves. And we just published version 5 of that standard. And it's, we have customers that have already moved over to it. So we're aligning on the B2B level, and all of the robotics and processing and triage and data folks all align, are members of the group too. So they're going, okay, now we know what it needs to feed into in our system. And now the retailers, the Walmarts, the eBays, the Amazons, now they're getting involved and going, okay, how do we translate the business side standard to what a consumer could see? It makes sense for a consumer. Our language in B2B is very technical and detailed, and it looks like a technical document. But how do we turn this into something that's consumer friendly that everybody can use? So we're feeding the right stuff into the right definitions that are for a consumer. This is what excellent is, or this is certified. Like, so that's all coming, and all of the AI and the tools is what's driving it, making it actually possible.
And other kind of, not necessarily disruptive, but other form factors that are being introduced into the market. Like we've seen foldables on the market for a few years now. Inevitably, there would be different ways to process those devices with the hinges and all that. Already rolling your eyes. How are we seeing foldables kind of play out in the secondary space? Because we're quite a few years in now.
We're in. Oh yeah, we're in it.
How's that playing out now? Where do we expect kind of foldables to go in this space?
It's still challenging. I mean, anytime you introduce a new form factor, you have to change your processing in some way. Like the robotics have to change a bit. Okay, I got to train a robot arm to open it up, or So new processes, new parts, new things to inspect. Do we need to consider changing the grading scales for a new form factor? Very high price points. That's kind of the nice part. Maybe not for consumers, but it gives the secondary market some wiggle room to take on product that may take me a little more time to figure out how to repair and process through my systems. But there's going to be an upside in it because there's this perceived value, even as a pre-owned, that holy cow, this is a $2,000 phone. If I get it pre-owned for $1,400, I'm getting a great deal. So there's because it is expensive, it can enable us to like figure out the form factor with time. So it's been challenging. The consumer, I'd say that like the volume of it has tightened up a bit. It's expensive, so it's a tough proposition. The promotions don't necessarily cover it all the way either. You can't do here's a free blank, like it's just not happening there. But the diehards love it. I mean, it's very much the diehard crowd looking for those. So I think we'll see more of them. I do anticipate Apple's going to get into that game, not this year, but next. And that will change things. If what we're hearing is that consumers, when asked if they will, if Apple brings that out, would you consider it?
Yeah.
Far higher than what's in the market today. The sentiment is much higher.
Yeah. It's like you read my questions beforehand too. So talking about that Apple dominance, knowing that customers love Apple, and especially like we've seen at Counterpoint, an easy way for younger people to get into Apple ecosystem is through the secondary market.
Totally.
It's a lot easier to afford an iPhone 11 and iPhone 12 rather than having to go out and buy a brand new phone for a 15, 16-year-old, right? Are there, or have you seen any kind of trends or any kind of uprising OEMs that could potentially gain share over Apple? Is there a horizon on this Apple dominance, or are we just accepted it now?
I truly believe that if Apple comes into the market with some new form factor, it's going to be very hard to topple their dominance. I think it's also something that's needed. The current form factor, while awesome, definitely a customer, it's taken the upgrade cycle out pretty far. Now, from a green perspective, that's awesome. People are using devices longer, they last longer, they're more resilient. It's great. However, they're businesses and they do want to sell more devices. I think that one of the best ways to get consumers into a new phone is to change things up a bit. And if they do that, I think the upgrades, like there will be a big push for those devices. Now, it all depends on how much it is and what the offers are, and et cetera, et cetera. But I think it's a driver. However, there's always a third place, right? It's Apple, Samsung in the U.S. absolutely, they dominate. And there's supply chain resiliency there and a great secondary market for it. But there is a market for everything in the secondary market. I think we've seen the Google devices, the Pixels, they're doing great. Yeah. Google has done a very good job about caring about the secondary market too. They want to make sure that has, those devices have a strong residual value in the secondary market. They want to make sure the software support it. They care about Android, obviously. Yeah. So it's a lasting good experience. That's the one that kind of pops up the most. Mm-hmm. But really, I mean, in our software on our platform, I mean, we see all the way down to feature phones, and they still move. Like, there is literally a market for everything. And a lot of it is just getting a lot smarter with where it goes. It doesn't matter what brand it is. Maybe it goes into the MVNO channels as a pre-owned, and it's at a prepaid store. Maybe it's going overseas to emerging market. Maybe it's going somewhere there's still 3G. There's still 3G phones sold in the market. So, regardless of where people stack in, the market has demand and resiliency. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think that's been the overall theme for this event, essentially, is volatility and change, right?
Constant, yes.
Like, it's constant change, especially with macroeconomic effects, the having to, as you mentioned, redistribute the devices, finding new ways to basically make this market push forward. Yeah. And it has been.
That's right.
Right? So I guess kind of leading into like final thoughts for 2025 going forward, what are you most excited about the changes happening in the market? What are you expecting to see in the next year that you're looking forward to?
There's a few things I'm excited about. Like, you're right. This industry is just an exercise in change. The people that make up this secondhand industry, just specifically the cell phones, we don't have the luxury of sitting in with the OEMs and learning about what's upcoming. We're not sitting in the room with the people that are planning on the carrier promotions that are upcoming for launches. Like, this is reverse, and the secondary market has kind of been this like, oh, you guys do your thing over here. So it's naturally resilient. We get thrown curveballs constantly, and this year is no different. Normally it's companies throwing curveballs. Right now it's governments, but I always get excited for, okay, what's the chaos going to be this time? Yeah. And we figure it out quickly. It's an industry that is really like, they're almost hungry for that change and weirdness. We know something's going to happen. So. Anywho, I just say all that to say that, like, no matter what happens, this industry figures it out, which is cool. Excited, I'm eager more than I'm excited to see where pricing shakes out in the back half of the year. I'm eager to see how promotional OEMs and carriers can be against those numbers. I'm excited looking into 2026 for new form factors and some chaos there. But I'm really excited to see where the consumer transactions go as we take all the awesome grading work that we're doing on the B2B side and start translating that to consumer transactions. I think that's going to drive consumer trust up even higher and take the overall secondary market residual values upwards, which then on the B2B side, that means our price per unit goes up as well. So we're doing really interesting and worthwhile work, but it's also going to mean additional revenue for all the players in the game too. So that's kind of what I'm excited about. It's very businessy and nerdy, but
no, I think, if we were to sit down and have this conversation again in a year, it's going to be totally different.
Totally different.
That's what we've kind of grown to expect now, right?
100% right.
So thank you for sitting down this year and talking to me.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it, and we're looking forward to see what B-Stock comes out with in the next little bit. And thank you so much, Sean.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.